Hey everybody, kind of a low-key one today. Today I wanted to talk about the year in review for the channel. Last year, on, I think it was December 31st, could be wrong, I did a 2019 in review video where I was just, talking to you guys about how the year had gone, what had happened, some updates, my general thoughts on the year's worth of content and what I would be wanting to do in the future. Um, and that being said, I wanted to do something similar today. Now, obviously, it's going to be a lot different because the year has been quite different than last year. A lot has happened. And some of it really, really good, some of it not so good. Most of the not so good, thankfully, has been at least external, in the sense that it's more to do with the state of the world than the state of my life personally. But things go and they they go up and down. That's just how life is. But first of all, I wanted to quickly review over the content that has been made this year and my general thoughts and feelings on the reception to those things, and how I've been basically viewing my content and some different ideas and stuff that I have about that. So the year started off with the Sonic Adventure 2 video. I happen to still be pretty proud of that one. It wasn't one of my most viewed, but honestly, like I've said before on this channel, I feel it needs reiterating since it's it's been a decent bit. I don't particularly mind if things that I make that I'm passionate about don't get a ton of views because, I make them specifically for me above all else. I like delivering good content to you guys, don't get me wrong. That's not to say that like, oh, well, screw it, I don't care what you think. But, I just enjoy making things for me first and foremost. And I think that's kind of a good thing because I feel like if I'm making something that I would enjoy watching, then consequently I am not delivering something that feels ham-fisted or underplayed or, just done for the sake of doing it for, popularity or clout or whatever. Sometimes I will follow trendy topics, don't get me wrong, but overall, I just, I usually only talk about something if I really actually care about talking about it, even if it is, even if it happens to be, superficially trendy, in a manner of speaking. So the Sonic Adventure 2 video, wasn't exactly my most popular, but I thought it was a pretty good video. I thought my Sonic movie video was... I'm actually kind of surprised it got as many views as it did. 3.6k isn't actually, like, a bunch, but it's still... I'm still surprised that many people actually bothered watching it, because it was just kind of a stream of consciousness ramble, really. Much like this is, and if this gets even, like, any views at all, I'm going to be surprised by that, too. Main essay hold on, let me just, real quick, touch on the little things that... weren't exactly main channel content this year. That's kind of similar in that vein. I had another update video, which, don't need to talk about that, because that's not really important. I did a stream of consciousness ramble about Brand New Animal, which I thought, the reception to that was pretty cool. I liked seeing people chime off in the comments about that one and, let me know how they felt about it. And generally, I just wanted to get my feelings out about that one and see what other people thought about it. I've come to have a few more little opinions about that show here and there since then, and I have understood some arguments on its behalf that some people have made over time. I still don't think it's perfect. I still think a lot of my original criticisms of it hold up in that context, but I do happen to think that, it's maybe not as infuriating as I initially felt when talking about it originally. I did that quickie review of Evan's Remains. That one wasn't particularly popular, but I felt a responsibility to review it because I had been given a review code, which already, in and of itself, is such a bizarre, surreal thing to me. To be offered a review code for a game on my channel is just really out there. I never thought that something like that would happen. It's the same thing with like sponsorship stuff. I'm kind of like wondering if that'll happen eventually, and I'm gonna be shilling NordVPN to you guys or something. That would be cool though. I mean, hit me up. But it's just that's kind of been the general theme of the year, actually. In a sense, is just a lot of unexpected things happening that I didn't really ever anticipate actually happening. The NezumiVA mod for Sonic Adventure 2 was another thing that I never saw happening, but I think is really cool. Obviously, I paid for that. That wasn't like a gift or anything, but I was happy to see how many people seemed to generally be excited about that, and to see that it actually got quite a decent number of downloads on Game Banana was very fun. And to see the artist who was responsible for making that model for me, Milo, see a sharp upturn in commissions since I got that made was really cool. I was really appreciative of that, because I feel like Milo's work is absolutely spectacular and definitely worth paying the hard-earned money for. And so to see Milo pick up some more business ever since that was really encouraging to me. And I've noticed over time, even if in just small ways, I've noticed that sometimes my, I don't want to say promotion or intervention or anything, but like just nudging my audience in the direction of things that are people and work that I think is valuable has, in some rare cases, seen those people receiving a bit more of attention than I think they had before. And that, in addition to being insane, is just really encouraging. It reminds me of how cool and how much potential there is socially in a space like YouTube to foster creative output and general improvement of quality of life for people like us who make content that we enjoy, or content similar to our own tastes, or even just content that we find interesting. I think the more I think about the potential for this age of internet content, the more I'm really excited about the possibilities of continuing to make it easier for people to sustain themselves creatively in these very independent spaces that don't necessarily require big corporate gigs, or contracts or pitches to a television station or anything like that. We can just make things that we like, and people will care about them, and that is very encouraging. I honestly think that is probably my favorite thing about YouTube as a space, and I think that has probably been the most cool and encouraging thing about doing this so far for me. Speaking of cool and encouraging, wow, okay, let's actually talk about like some of the reception of the bigger videos and general channel stuff going on this year too. So let's start from the top. There's going to be some more that are a little bit more worth mentioning later on, but I just want to go sequentially. Really enjoying seeing the continued reception to the 2-part Madoka series that I did earlier this year. That is something that I really wanted to do for a long time, because I love Madoka and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And to see people talk about that with me and having that dialogue open after I put so much research and time into that has been very fulfilling. Especially seeing people comment on the rebellion part in particular, and commenting that, initially when they watched it maybe years ago or so, they didn't either quite understand rebellion, or they didn't really enjoy it from the perspective of what they thought it was getting at. And one of the coolest parts about this job for me is seeing people talk about their own vantage point with something that I have discussed, and then tell me that the way that I have discussed it has made them think about it in a different way. I think that's really cool, because, obviously art is a very subjective thing. It is something that inherently provokes discussion among a bunch of different people, because with art, you bring your own perspective and your own lived experiences and your own individual circumstances to something, and you see things differently than other people do. And regardless of, a subjective intent or, an authorial, excuse me, authorial intent as well, you kind of, the scope of one person's experience with a piece of media is never quite the same, specifically between people, like in a one-to-one manner. It's the reason why I, for example, really, really dislike Future Diary a lot, and I've made that exceedingly clear. But there have been a lot of people that commented on that video telling me, in kind and not so kind terms, that they disagreed with me on that. And I don't mean to, I make fun of that all the time. I make like running jokes about that one in particular. It's kind of a running joke for the channel now. But I want to make it clear once again. I just want to drive the point home just in case that I don't actually, begrudge those people or think that, they should just shut up or anything like that. I think that they're more than valid in having their own opinions, even if I disagree with them. And I enjoy hearing from those people, particularly when they're respectful about it. I have gotten quite a few comments over the past year on that video in particular from people who really liked that series, that told me that even though they disagreed with me, they still saw my points, and they still were thankful to see something from a critical lens that was trying to take itself seriously and not just bashing on something with no particular basis in reality or, coherent thought. Hold on, the cat's... Apologies for that. He was just really whining outside that door, so I let him in. If you hear him, then I apologize. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not gonna make him stop meowing, because there's just no way to do that. So, anyway, but yeah, that was probably a good enough place to stop that train of thought anyway. I didn't close the door good enough. Okay, I'm back again. Sorry about that. This is going to be a very funny video, in that I'm not going to edit like any of the audio whatsoever, so you're just going to have to deal with all of this. It doesn't matter. We're all going to die someday, and you're going to just have to put up with it. Anyway, what else was I going to talk about? Yes, touching more on the major beats of channel stuff. The Vasterror video that I did 7 months ago, I got to feature Austin and Heather on that one, and that was really cool, because honestly, Vasterror just kind of is a thing that it took me a while to finally get around to reading it, because I was tangentially aware of it because of my place in Homestuck fandom, and it was always my intention to get around to reading it sometime, because I knew that people were very fond of it, that there was a very active and vocal fan base. I'm sorry, he's just... I have some like discarded boxes in the corner from Christmas stuff, and he's just making a home. He's just setting up shop. But anyway, but yeah, so it had taken me a while to finally get around to reading Vasterror, but when I finally did, it was really cool to actually be able to have that kind of in-depth discussion about the creative process behind something with somebody who is actually responsible for it. That's something that I've never gotten the chance to do before. And I know that compared to, say, a Sonic or a Madoka or whatever, that is a much smaller scale thing, and that's why it was a lot easier, at least in a technical sense, to arrange something like that. But I still don't think it makes it any less cool. I think creative projects on their own don't need to necessarily be big, like I said, big corporate productions in order to be artistically meaningful. In fact, I find a lot of more small-scale independent projects to be way more interesting in that regard, as opposed to big studio projects, even though there are, again, quite a many big studio projects that I like as well. But that was really fun. And also, I don't know, I don't think I mentioned it on the channel. I think I might have mentioned it on Twitter, but later this year, I got to participate in a small capacity with Vasterror, actually. I got to contribute a little bit of writing to it. If you're a reader of Vasterror, or if you're planning on reading it eventually, watch the video if you need to know more about it. I actually contributed a small bit of writing to one of the recent flashes. If you are familiar, I can't remember what the actual flash page was called. I think it was Turn and Check Social Media or something like that. Something along those lines. You'll probably know what it is if you've actually read it, or like if you go through and read it, you'll know which part I'm talking about, where Turn and checks their social media feed. I got to write some of the filler posts for the sort of like Twitter lookalike app, and that was really fun. See if you can spot the ones that you think I wrote, although I already actually said which ones I wrote on Twitter back when it came out, but, whatever. My background OC is canon. I will not have you disparage me. She exists, and she is real, and I love her. That being said, moving on. Half-Life VR, but the AI is self-aware. That was one that I was really not sure about, to be completely honest. I knew that was it was a trendy topic kind of thing, but again, I don't make videos specifically just to follow trendy topics. I actually wanted to talk about Half-Life and Half-Life VR AI specifically because it just was indicative of another facet of that internet communal art thing that I've been seeing picking up more steam in recent years that I'm excited about. So of course I wanted to talk about it and convey some of those feelings through that, because that gave me a good jumping off point to talk about those topics in a more specifically framed way. But because of how esoteric of a topic that is for an actual video essay, I mean, that ended up being a 53-minute video, yeah? And over half of it is not actually spent talking about Half-Life VR at all. And I was really worried about that, to be honest, because I knew that I had a lot to say, and I was confident with what I wanted to say and what I wanted to put forth, but I was really scared that people were not going to enjoy it, or that people were going to be, really bored, or they were going to be like, you're just reading way too deep into this kind of thing, you shouldn't have had to make a video this long about something like that, it's just a, funny YouTube parody. So there's no reason to talk about it at such lengths, but I was surprised to see that that wasn't the case. It's 53K at the moment, still climbing, albeit slowly now because it's, an older video. It's not like it's, brand new and people are watching it all the time. But I was really surprised at how warm the reception was for that, and how much I feel like the actual meat of what I was trying to get across did, in fact, end up coming across. And I'm really happy for that, because honestly, this has been one of my major concerns with making stuff on my channel, is that I put a lot of emotional and, I guess, intellectual? I don't know, that sounds a little full of itself, but you know what I mean. I put a lot of mental and emotional labor and thought and investment into the things that I talk about for the specific reasons that I talk about them. And I think, if nothing else, media exists to provoke those kinds of discussions and feelings and, in-depth dives and whatever, even if the media itself is not necessarily one that you would think to be all that deep on its own. I think there is a valuable wealth of discussions to have about media from the perspectives of different things like this, even if the media itself is not necessarily all that deep. And I think that if you talk about media to any extent, you're going to inevitably come across discussions like that. And I think that it is valuable more so to engage with discussions like that than to simply, shrug it off and say, oh, well, it's not that deep, because you're afraid of, appearing to be unironically passionate about something. That's another thing that I've noticed in the YouTube landscape as of recently. I feel like more and more people are actually starting to talk earnestly about things in a manner that is indicative of their interests and their general state of mind, and, just the things that they like, more so than they feel the need to make some kind of ironic, quippy, kind of, almost sort of cynical spin on just, some popular topic of ridicule. Say, for example, like Sonic 06 or whatever. I've seen a lot less people talking about Sonic 06 recently, which is great. I don't want to see more people talking about it. There's enough. I've had enough. Although I have seen people talking about Sonic 06 more in different ways. I've seen people talking about it from a more critical angle and less of an internet funny man angle, or talking about the things that they thought were interesting about it despite its failures. I think that those kinds of discussions are really cool. I really like that. I think that that is a really cool thing that people should keep doing. And it's because that's the type of content I want to see. That's all that people are allowed to make on YouTube anymore. No, yeah. So, it's really cool to see that kind of thing pick up, and no clearer is that than with the Beginner's Guide to Sonic the Hedgehog video that I did 3 months ago. Holy, excuse my French. Holy fucking shit. Usually I don't like to get overly zealous with my cursing in main videos because I try to keep it, sort of PG-13, sort of a little bit above here and there. Especially because my parents watch these videos sometimes and I'm like, them's the breaks. But, just, wow. Jesus Christ. I really don't know how to explain how thoroughly stoked I am by the currently 73K on that one, and the monumental response to it was just beyond what I could have ever expected for something I have made on this channel. I mean, that alone, that view count in that short amount of time, at least comparatively to what I have learned to expect from making content on the internet, is baffling. I cannot imagine 73,000 people willingly sitting down to listen to me talk for an hour and 11 minutes. It is beyond my pay grade of understanding. My brain is not large enough to comprehend that information. And so I'm still processing it, even now. But I think that is a perfect example. That and the Detective Conan video that I did a couple of years ago. Wait, was it a couple of years ago? It probably wasn't that long ago. Maybe. I don't know. Time is fake. I'm not looking at the moment, so like you could just have the leisure of checking and then being like, you're wrong, you're stupid. I have the numbers right here, and you're right. I am wrong and stupid. No, but what was I even saying? I always go off on rambles like this. Can you tell that I am mentally unwell? Because if you couldn't before, you should be able to now. But yeah, it's really out. Okay, yes, that's what I was gonna say. With that video and the Conan video in particular, I have found my favorite thing about making content on YouTube in that regard, and that is getting to see comments from people talking about their own personal life experiences with the things that I am discussing in the way that I am discussing them. Like, in general, the Beginner's Guide to Sonic the Hedgehog video was, on one hand, it was supposed to be a general overview to try to make sense of the sprawling web of, hedgehog madness that is the Sonic franchise for people who maybe aren't familiar with it and wanted to get into it, because I've had a lot of people over time, that know that I am the Sonic gal, ask me, like, where the hell do I start? I don't know where to start with this kind of thing. So that was part of why I made that. But several times throughout that video, I did make clear that I wanted to hear from you guys, or the people watching, like, what was your start with the franchise? How did you get into it? Where did this fondness come from for you? And what has it meant to you personally? And I have been extremely blessed to receive so many comments to that effect, talking about personal life experiences, talking about family members, talking about where you grew up, or, what the specific situation was in regards to localization in your country or whatever. Like, just things like that are just personal and anecdotal and deeply driven by a single perspective from a single person's very specific life. I think that those comments are the most invaluable thing about doing internet content like I do, because seeing those types of perspectives is not only just very interesting and just, I personally find it very intellectually fulfilling to read comments like that, because I just think it's really cool to see so many different people from different facets of life commenting to the effect of what their own personal experiences with these types of things that I'm familiar with are. But also, I think it fosters a sort of not only community, but a sense of extended. I hate to say just empathy in general, because that sounds like kind of weird, but it is kind of what I'm getting at. I feel like the more people have personal connections with other people and are able to understand where they're coming from with certain things, or why they think that the way that they do in regards to something even as innocuous as Sonic the Hedgehog, I think that fosters a certain sense of understanding between people, and I think that in particular is one of the many strengths and potentials of YouTube content of this degree. I know that's may seem a little bit over dramatic, especially when talking about something like an anime or cartoon video essay, but I think that's why it's such a valuable format that has caught on in such a way. I think it's really meaningful to be able to connect with people that come from different circumstances than you, but be able to find out why they feel the way they do about something. And I think even just offering cool anecdotes, or conveying your own personal life experiences or that kind of thing, is an incredibly valuable tool for being able to connect people and to introduce them to either ideas or concepts or whatever that they might not have otherwise had any reason to come into contact with or had any reason to consider. I can't tell you how many people I have had comment on different things that I've made about different things that I like, that I think have gotten maybe a bad rap or whatever, saying, I didn't really have any reason to think this way about this certain thing before, but hearing you talk about it like this made me think about it some more, and now I actually feel way differently. It's just that simple. Providing different perspectives for that sort of thing is what I think is the great potential of YouTube and video essay formats in general, and I do hope that more people earnestly take advantage of that in the coming years, and specifically to the extent of just being honest, just being open, not needing to necessarily talk about just, make a haha funny video about thing everybody hates, although those can be fun sometimes. I'm not going to say that like the format is inherently condemnable or anything like that, but but to actually talk earnestly and openly about things that they enjoy, things that matter to them, even if they're not necessarily things that people think are all that important or, deep or whatever. I think that there's just a lot of discussion to be had with something like that is, again, valuable in its own right. The Sonic OVA video was another example of that. There wasn't a lot deeply ingrained in that to talk about, but I just, there are a lot of little things about that OVA that I think are really cool, and I liked being able to talk about it with you guys. Not same thing, because it is a lot deeper in a sense, but the Doki Doki Literature Club video that I did 2 months ago, which, by the way, got a similarly really, really out there reach compared to what I usually get, 52K in 2 months. Again, fucking bananas. Was another one of those examples where I wanted to convey the feelings that something gave me on a personal level like that, and to see people resonate with that, to see people take to it and be like, yeah, I understand what you mean. This is how I feel about it. Is just really cool. And I just dropped the Sonic R video a week ago. It only has 1.7K at the moment. Come on, you guys, you have to pick it up. But no, but to be more serious for a moment, that was a little bit more of a cheesy example, because the underlying text of that one wasn't as complicated. But it was a little bit self-indulgent, to be honest. If people are wondering why that last Sonic R video was just so like blisteringly anime and cheesy, it's because I just, I just wanted to have fun, to be honest. I knew that it was going to be probably like my last major video of the year, and seeing as it is December 31st, 8:54 p.m. as I am saying this, it is. But like, I knew that was going to be kind of the last hurrah of the year, and because everybody had to wait so long because of my computer troubles and everything, I just wanted to have fun with it, and call back to some of the jokes that I had made in previous videos. There's been a long-running joke now, I don't know why, that there should be a NezumiVA ARG, and so I thought, how funny would it be if I incorporated all of these sort of sketch things that I've done in previous videos in a way that made it like suitably melodramatic and over the top. That's why I made the joke at the end of that video that's like, I don't want to turn into the nostalgia critic. And the reason I made that joke is because I'm never doing something like that ever again. I did it for fun this one time, but now there's no more fun. We're not allowed to have fun anymore. I'm strictly going to make video lectures about global warming, and I'm going to talk specifically about how we're all fucked. No, I'm kidding. But I'm probably not going to do something like that again, at least not for a very long time, if at all. But I appreciate you guys letting me indulge myself for this one occasion. It was quite a bit of fun, when I wasn't stressing making something because it had been so long since I made something. That was probably the worst part about it. That being said, I should probably reiterate this in this video too. I mentioned it in the last update video, but I know if I don't, that people are going to bring it up again because people continually bring it up in my comments even now. It's like they don't even watch the fucking video. Yes, I'm making another Mystery Skulls video. I know there's another Mystery Skulls video out. I know that the future is a video that exists. I know that Mystery Ben animated it, and that there were several other people that also were involved in the process of animating it. I know that it continues off from the last Mystery Skulls video that I made a couple of years ago, and I know that I'm going to have to talk about it in depth eventually because that's what I promised to do, and I'm going to do it. So please just know that I'm going to do it. Can you tell that I'm a little frustrated with that? But don't get me wrong. I'm that's not me like bagging on you guys though. I am appreciative of the excitement over something like that. The fact that more people than just one would be adamant about me making a follow-up video to something just because they want to hear me talk about something else is on its own a very flattering prospect. And that being said too, I wouldn't worry about, whether I'm going to have content on the horizon. I have plenty of ideas of things that I want to talk about or do or whatever for the future. So it's just a matter of figuring out when I want to do them and what specifically I want to talk about at a given time. And that's pretty much the limit. Like that's it. It's not much of a limit. So, just hang in there. Just stay with me. I have stuff I want to do. Hopefully everybody will enjoy them. There are some other things that I should mention before we start to wind down too. I wanted to mention some other stuff related to career, quote unquote, other stuff like that, that I thought would be, both cool and interesting to bring up. So there you go. For those of you who weren't aware, because either you don't follow me on Twitter or you don't read my community tab or whatever, this year saw my debut in terms of an actual, pretty professional voice acting gig. I did semi-professional before this point. I did some podcasts and stuff like that, which, by the way, if you don't know the general history of me with voice acting, I mean, my username is NezumiVA for a reason, but but some people don't quite catch on to that. So to specify, yes, I've always been into voice acting for a very long time. I think I first became mildly aware that voice acting was like a thing people could do for money and for a living when I was like around 10 or 11 years old, maybe even younger than that. And from that point, I have been doing amateur voice acting online pretty much that entire time. Like for all of my young adolescent to current life, I've been, trying to do voice acting. And there have been some periods of time where I wasn't trying as hard to get into the business, quote unquote, as I am at certain other points, but I've always been particularly serious about it. And it has always been something that I wanted to do. So when I first got to be able to do podcast stuff, firstly with KQMP at the Tone, which is a very, very funny sketch comedy show. You should definitely check it out. There were several episodes, but because of 2020 being the way that it is, the show ended up actually getting retooled and relaunched. And that relaunch is coming fairly soon, so you should check that out because I think At the Tone is a really good show that you should definitely listen to. In addition to that, I got to do the sci-fi podcast Null Void, with Piece of Cake Podcast Productions as Hurley. You should definitely check that out too. It's a cool sci-fi post-humanist type of thing about how corporations bad, which is what we all need to listen to. It also has a lot of gay people. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate all the good. I say that in like a semi-funny sounding way, but I do sincerely mean it. Like, more shows do need to have diverse LGBT representation in that manner, and I think that Null Void does a really good job with that. Point being, I played a trans woman in that, like I am, because I'm a trans woman, which some people still don't understand. That's another thing about YouTube commenters, dude. I have so many people that are like, what happened to your voice? Are you a boy or a girl? Like, please read. Do like 5 minutes of reading on your own. I have a Twitter. You can go to it. I have a social media presence under which I have a display name with a giant trans flag in my fucking username. Like, it really shouldn't be this hard to understand. But apparently it is. And some people really don't like that, which I think is very funny because I get not like to be fair, I don't get them as often as I used to initially, and that's good because it's genuinely not a fun thing for my mental health to get bad comments. I'm gonna be honest. That's why I turned off comment notifications in my email. Because I just don't check them as often anymore. And there is something a little bit sad about that, but, it's just kind of necessary. But yeah, like, it's so funny to see people that just get so, like, mad at me in, like, oh, you special snowflake, you weird SJW, like, just about me being trans, ? It's really funny because, like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I'm seeing this in a way that is very different to how they're seeing it. But if I look at my content in an overall scale, like, yeah, sometimes I talk about vaguely political matters, but I don't think that I necessarily talk about that sort of thing particularly often in my content, just because I feel like it isn't often a topic of discussion that comes up in the things that I am discussing. I think, like, the most overtly political thing that I ever talked about was Sonic Sat AM, which is very... Can I just say, by the way, I've gotten so many comments from people saying, like, you're just a fucking snowflake, you're just stretching this, you're just talking about something that's not there, you're just seeing it because you want to see your leftist agenda. And I'm like, dude... Sonic Sat AM is a show where a bunch of freedom-fighting renegade teenagers live in a fucking set of bunkers in the woods and go into the city run by a dictator and, like, lay siege to his property and, like, destroy his factories and, like, run interference on his machinery and, like, destroy his infrastructure in order to resist his fucking rising, like, authoritarian regime. I don't know how in the world you could make something like that non-political. I think you have to stretch further to make it non-political than you would have to make it political. But, like, if you want to think that I'm just seeing something that's not there, then please, by all means, continue to enjoy watching Sonic the Hedgehog Sat AM without a pair of eyeballs in your face. That's not an affront to people who actually don't have eyes. Just figured I'd mention that. It's a figure of speech. Anyway, what else was I gonna say? I got really off track there. Oh yeah, voice acting stuff. But anyway, speaking of being trans and voice acting, we go places here. We go places, we have fun. I'm very excited and thankful for the opportunity to have been able to voice act in a professional role, like really professional, not like, semi-professional podcasting work. Like, again, this is one of those things that I've mentioned plenty on social media, and I've mentioned it on my community tab, but if you don't keep up with either of those things, you might not have heard about it. I was in an English dub for a Spanish live-action miniseries called Veneno recently that was on HBO Max, is where you can view the English dub and the show subtitled if you don't like watching English dubs, which I understand. I don't typically like to watch English dubs either. But yeah, I was in that. I was going to say I'll put on the screen the role that I played, but I won't because I'm lazy. I don't feel like editing this audio that much along to anything else. But just look back at my post. You'll find it. You'll be able to tell. But that's a really good show. You should watch it. It is a sort of like biopic kind of miniseries revolving around the life and times of... What the fuck was that? Sorry, I don't... Neighborhoods, man. But anyway, like I was saying, it revolves around the life and times of a beloved LGBT and trans icon in Spain, Cristina La Veneno, who is an incredible woman. Like, seriously, if you have not heard of this woman before, please do, like, some research into her life, or at least watch the show. I mean, like, the show does a pretty good job of covering her life and her circumstances and all that, but even just reading, like, articles and interviews and stuff from back in the day, she's fucking amazing. I love that woman. She is incredible. And to feel like even a small part of being able to bring her story to a wider audience does actually mean a great deal to me. It is one of the biggest honors I have ever undertaken in a professional sense, period, and probably will be for the rest of my life. Like, it's genuinely an incredible opportunity to have been able to be involved in something like that, and I am constantly thankful that I got the chance to do it. Not simply because it was a paying job, although that is fun, that's cool and fun, and I do appreciate that aspect of it as well, and I do appreciate being able to put it on my resume and be like, tap, 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 I'm a professional now, hello, hire me. But even other than that, like, it is an important role, and I think that whether or not I was going to be involved with it to any extent, I believe that it does require that kind of level of care and attentiveness and authenticity, and I think that it is a story absolutely worth telling to the best of anybody's ability. And so to have been even considered for it, much less allowed to participate in it directly, is an incredible honor, and I am very, very, very fucking thankful for it. I really want to continue to give praises and shout outs to the crew that worked with me on the audio side of things to do that. They were very patient, and they were very fun to work with. I want to thank the writing teams for that too, because honestly, translating from Spanish live action to English is not easy at all, especially with something so particularly quirky as Veneno, because there are a lot of particular turns of phrase and specific like catchphrases and things that were particularly important to that story, which I can't imagine would have been very easy to come up with ways to translate. I do not envy the team who had to do stuff like that, because it's very hard. And I know that there are going to be some people who are inevitably disappointed with the way that those things turn out. And honestly, I don't blame them, because trying to come up with a way to do that to a satisfactory extent is just as hard for localizers as it is for anybody else. And so obviously, I definitely appreciate the perspective and opinion of people who would say prefer to watch it subtitled, because again, like I said, I usually prefer to watch foreign things subtitled anyway myself. I'm just predisposed to have a bias towards the dub of this particular product because I was in it. That being said, the amazing performances extend to both the English and original Spanish versions, in my opinion. I think everybody did a fantastic job, and I'm very, very happy to have been a part of it. So, yeah. I was going to say something else. Yes, I also wanted to give a shout out and thanks to my director, who I got to work with for this show, who's Carrie Karanen. If you are vaguely familiar with various anime dubs, you'll probably recognize her. She was in that new Netflix Evangelion dub as Misato. She was in Kill la Kill as Satsuki, Mami in Madoka Magica. She is a very, very talented woman, and she was extremely, extremely nice and fun to work with. Going into the booth was a very nerve-wracking experience for me on the onset because I had never done something like this before, even though it was over Zoom in my own house because, COVID. But it was still a very distinct experience compared to other voice acting stuff that I've done before because it is done in a very different manner as opposed to how I usually do it for amateur things. And she was just completely nice, just really friendly, very adaptable, very fun, had a lot of energy, just made me feel completely at home the entire time and made it easy for me to settle into the task that I was being given. There were a lot of things that I had to record for that show, which Jesus, shut up. There are a lot of things that I had to record for that show, which are not typically things that I would have felt not embarrassed doing in front of other people, as you can imagine if you might have seen some of that content. And I don't know, I just did not feel particularly out of place. I'm sorry about that. I think it's like fireworks or something, probably. It's like 9/11 at the moment. It is not midnight. You guys need to settle down. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, there were a lot of things I had to record for that show that would have been embarrassing with anybody else, and if it were with a much more, stuffy, strict environment, I think I would have been absolutely fucking terrified recording something like that. But she actually ended up making it, super easy and lax, and I didn't have any trouble with it at all, at least in terms of, that's not me bragging about, an acting talent thing. That's me saying I felt comfortable enough to do it without much incident. And for that, I am very, 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 very thankful. I think that Carrie is an amazing director. I think she is very good at what she does and getting what she wants from people. And yeah, what else was I going to talk about? There were probably some other things that I wanted to talk about. I'm union eligible now as far as voice acting goes. That means I could join the union. I probably won't at the moment because the entry fee is fucking $2,000 or something. It's a lot of money and I don't have it. But eventually I might. That being said, I still have the allowance of doing 2 more union projects before I am union mandatory. So anybody who's doing a union project that wants to send fresh talent, hit me up. I've heard that Chainsaw Man is getting an anime soon. You might have heard me talking about that. You might have heard me saying that you should definitely hire me for it. We don't even have preview animation of that show yet. We don't even have a promo for the Chainsaw Man anime. But I know it's going to get licensed, and when it does, dub directors, hit me up. I know what to do. I've got it in my head already. I already know. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be ideal. This is going to be really funny, months from now when I have nothing to do with it, when it actually does end up coming out. But you have the power to make that not be embarrassing for me. You have the power, if you are a fan of Chainsaw Man, to demand... Or if you're involved in the production of Chainsaw Man, the dub, in the future, you have the power to make sure that I don't embarrass myself on YouTube in front of my minuscule audience. Please make sure that this is, this is the one time that I've predicted something right. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just kind of rambling at this point, to be completely honest. And there were a couple things that I wanted to ramble about just because I wanted to get them out of the way and just generally have a good, fun time with you guys. I think that that's a valuable thing between content creator and audience. Other thing, people have been asking me if I'm going to make a video eventually about that new Higurashi anime series that's been going on for half a core now. And yes, I am. I don't know specifically when, but I will. I'm trying to gather my thoughts about it still because, as you could probably tell if you've been watching it, shit's crazy, dude. Which is how things usually go in the land of Higurashi, but I wasn't quite expecting things to take such a drastic turn from how they originally were. Although I am very excited. As a fan of the franchise, I am always down for more Higurashi content, bro. As long as it's good and not done by Studio Dean originally and just being like borderline hentai. That was fucking weird. I hate Higurashi Kira. Except for the tiny good parts. There are a few. But we're not going to get into all that today. We could probably make a video about it at some point. I don't know. There's so many things I have to make videos about eventually. Who knows if I'm ever going to make all those videos. See what I mean? I'm not out of ideas. You're out of ideas. Yeah, I've been talking for close to an hour now. I should probably start to wrap this up. This year we reached 11,000 subscribers, and that is really insane to me. And this year we have also had like tons of views and professional acting debuts and all kinds of other stuff. I've been able to talk to a bunch of you, which has been really cool and fulfilling. I got to open up my Discord server for more people, and it's resulted in sometimes awkward interactions from people that I end up having to ban, but sometimes it's ended up in some really cool discussions among people that genuinely seem to enjoy each other's company. And to see the creativity and the social interactions between people in there has been genuinely really heartwarming. I'm very happy to have had some small part to do with that. I've been very happy to learn from people that they've been able to take away from things new experiences and genuine happiness that they haven't been able to fully express or immerse themselves in regards to some piece of media or whatever before, that now, after hearing my perspective on something, they've been able to feel differently about it. I think that there is a lot here to be humbled by, and I am not ever going to take it for granted, because better to be humble than to trick myself into thinking that I deserved this. And that's not me trying to bag on myself. That's not me saying, oh, I'm not worth it. You shouldn't watch me, because you should watch me and you should give me all your money. But that's just me saying that I am extremely appreciative of what I have been able to accomplish on this channel with all of your help. And let me emphasize that, with all of your help, because I would not be able to do any of this without you guys. It is your views and it is your engagement, your comments, your subscriptions, blah 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 blah, that makes any of this possible in the first place. And I would be a fool to trick myself into thinking that I just did all of that myself. Obviously, I don't want to give myself too little credit. I want to say that, I'm pretty proud of myself for the output that I've created this year and what I've been able to do. But I think that it is an important line to straddle between acknowledging that I have done something cool and wanting to actually pat myself on the back for it to an appropriate extent, but also acknowledging that none of this would be anywhere close to enough to get me to where I am, if not for the fact that you guys were there to make that support happen. And because of that, I cannot say enough how appreciative I am of that fact. I've been able to reconnect with a lot of people this year in a personal capacity that I haven't been able to talk to in a while, and that has been very emotionally fulfilling, and it has been a vast improvement to my life. My personal relationships have seen an overall massive improvement in the last year, and I can't imagine how these things would have come to be if I didn't find myself in a more fulfilling position and just ultimately do things that made me happy, as opposed to just dragging my feet around and being depressed, which I did for quite a couple of years before and during the beginning of this channel's inception. This channel has been something that has been really important to me and driving to me, and I feel like maybe this is a little bit overdramatic to say, but I feel like if I hadn't have started doing it, if I hadn't started talking about things that I like to the extent that I have and talking to you guys about it, I don't think I would be anywhere close to where I am right now. I think I'd be a lot more miserable than I am right now, actually. And there's something that requires gratitude on my part, an extreme amount of gratitude on my part to you guys for that. Even if you don't feel like you have been a huge part of that, just viewing or liking or commenting or whatever, like anything that you can do in that capacity has made things easier for me in a certain regard. And even when I have hit speed bumps after speed bump after speed bump, and especially these last few months, things got a little tumultuous with the whole computer situation and everything, I've still been able to feel like everything was going to be okay. When I saw that the channel wasn't actually dying and withering during the period of time that I wasn't able to make anything, even though it did slow down quite a bit, I knew that things were going to be all right. And I mean, hell, if you guys can wait like 3 years for Cybershell to post a new video, then you can wait a couple months for me. As far as that goes, fuck you. I'm not grateful anymore, no. But really, though, thank you. It really does mean a lot to have seen me through to this point. Whether you've been watching from the beginning of the channel or if you came along recently, it doesn't really matter. Either way, to me, you're equally important. And I honestly cannot say enough how beyond wildly ecstatic I am to have your support and your attention. That sounds... Let me rephrase that. To have your support and, I don't know, just, the fact that you see it even worth your time to be here at all and to enjoy what you're seeing means a lot to me. And I hope to continue delivering content, whether it be in my own personal content or in acting or whatever, in the continued months and years to follow, in a capacity that will continue to make people happy or thoughtful or anything in between. It's probably enough. Thanks for watching, everybody. I just got a text. Who's it from? We'll find out together. Bernie is respectfully asking you to split a $27 contribution between Reverend Warnock, John Ossoff, and our campaign before tonight's FEC deadline. The January 5th Georgia runoff. That's this week. You should vote in it if you live in Georgia. Please flip the Senate. This is really gonna date the video, like, immediately. But please vote in the Senate runoff. I'm so mad. I'm so mad about politics, dude. This is the politics section of the video. No, the video's ending. I just want to give all of the angry commenters some more fodder to hate me. You get text notifications from Bernie Sanders. What are you, some kind of socialist? Yes. But no, okay, seriously, I'm going now. Thanks for watching, everybody, this year and in general. And thank you for your kindnesses and your continuing to push me in the direction that I think is not only right for me, but is conducive to my own growth and my own happiness. That is a very roundabout way of saying thanks for watching the channel, guys. I could have made this video 5 minutes, but because I love you guys, I decided to ramble on for over an hour about every little thing that I could possibly think of, and that is because I care about you, and because you care about me, you're not going to hate me for it. All right, everybody? Agreed upon? All right, good night. Thanks, bye.
Oh, also cutting in, I had to record this part separately because I totally forgot to mention it before when I was recording the main part. But I've made a new channel for streaming. I don't know I'm gonna use it, but I do live at a new place that has better internet now, where I can just use the internet without having to worry about data caps. I just only have to worry about it occasionally slowing down here and there for like arbitrary reasons and cutting out for arbitrary reasons. Like any regular internet connection does when it's, internet connections. But I don't have to worry about it being limited. So streaming is absolutely a possibility for a thing that I can do regularly now. I don't know what the schedule is going to look like, or even if there's going to be a consistent schedule right now. Just know that I do have a streaming channel now. It's called NezumiVA Live. I will be posting the link to the channel in the description so you can go and subscribe to it, so you can hang out and watch streams and goof off with me whenever I feel like doing those. So there you go. Go subscribe.